Simplicity of vision and a paradigm shift in understanding. I was brought up being taught the same crap that you were, and it was pure BS. All this ridiculous nonsense, this convoluted crap. Humans love to pigeonhole things too, by the way. This is something here, and this is something different over here. It's like, well, that's not the case. They're just one thing. They're just different sides of looking at the same thing. Kind of like ice, water, and steam. We got different words for these things to conceptualize what they are. But obviously we know that ice, water, and steam are just different temperature and pressure modalities of water, right? I was taught foolishness, such as, well, we're trying to go for a grand unified theory. You might have it in the distant future. That was what I was taught in the 80s and before then. Still I'm taught now. We got gravity over here, electricity over here, electrostatics over here, and magnetism over there. And this, of course, is completely ludicrous. I kind of collected radioactive things. Bit of a science nerd. I mean, I actually, and I still do have in the basement, liquid nitrogen Dewar flasks, and I actually had yttrium, barium, copper oxide superconductor sets. I had all manner of scientific equipment and testing. I mean, I would really think outside of the box. Unlike, the people of my age that I grew up with, they're chasing women and other stuff like that. Maybe it would have turned out more normal if I did that right now. I never could have done that. I kept being taught crazy stuff. Same stuff that you're taught. Well, there's radiation. We got alpha radiation, beta, that's a lot more dangerous. We got gamma radiation, that's a lot more dangerous. For example, and explaining these three things, we could actually, if we could roll back the clock and say something more simple that a child's mind would understand. It's like, well, alpha radiation is not really that dangerous. It's just helium nuclei. Yeah, it's unstable elements that are kind of like having bowel movements. Unstable large elements are having bowel movements of helium nuclei. Well, that's perfectly logical and sensible. You could stop alpha radiation with a sheet of paper. Yeah, perfectly understandable. I understand what alpha radiation is now. Well, what beta radiation is actually what Nikola Tesla referred to as low energy, but still dangerous. Nikola Tesla called it his death ray. Of course, it was a lot more power, but it's technically scalar wave. And it's really horrible to say scalar waves because scalar waves don't have a wave component in them. They're actually longitudinal. They're radial. So this is scalar wave emissions. They're dangerous, but in the typical radiation, unless it's like an atomic blast or something, it's not really that harmful. What about gamma? We know gamma will kill you quick. Yeah? Gamma radiation. You and I all grew up with this, I was recently watching a Netflix series where they're building the new tomb over the Chernobyl remains. They built it off here to the side of the building, and they put railroad tracks so they could roll the thing, roll it over top to cover up the Chernobyl radioactive plant that blew up. Gamma radiation goes through everything, including lead. What if we called gamma radiation what it actually is? And of course it's dangerous, obviously so. Gamma radiation is just high energy light. By the way, the volume, like relative to visible light, I mean it's actually infinitely more than this. It's many countless thousands of times more compact. The actual frequency and wavelength of like visible light is up here, and like gamma radiation is even smaller than that. It's like, in our human world, the bigger something is, the more powerful it is, and the more energy it carries. Like this bigger rock is going to cause more damage if you throw it at your head than this smaller rock, right? In the case of energy, the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance. Instead of calling it gamma radiation, and it doesn't change how dangerous it is, obviously so, what if we just called it high energy light? And the reason why it's dangerous, and this is ultimately what a fundamental particle is too, by the way, I'm getting to that. The reason why it's so dangerous is it doesn't act like normal light. And by normal light, I mean the stuff that we see every day, and even UV, which is kind of dangerous. It'll give you skin cancer, Because I was laying out in the sun yesterday getting some nice UV rays. That's kind of dangerous. You get skin cancer from it. Gamma radiation is a lot more dangerous. The reason why it's dangerous, it doesn't act like light, even though it is light, because its energy is so compact. By the way, when you keep heading down the road towards gamma radiation, you end up at the fundamental particle of the entire universe. There's only one. All neutrons turn into protons, and Nikola Tesla, James Clerk Maxwell, even including the discoverer of the so-called electron, J.J. Thomson, just called it a single unit of dielectric induction. The reason why gamma radiation or high energy light is so dangerous is because it acts like quasi-matter, which is exactly what gamma radiation would be appropriately called, quasi-matter. It literally acts like a light bullet. Yeah, normal light. Yeah, UV is more penetrative, could give you skin cancer, but there are plenty of people like hung out in the sun for 100 years and not end up with skin cancer. Gamma radiation is dangerous because it acts exactly like a bullet. It goes through everything, including blocks of lead. The reason why it does that is because its volume is insanely small relative to visible light, or even UV light for that matter, or even X-ray. X-ray radiation is dangerous, and X-ray is just high energy light too. It's infinitely more compact and smaller in volume than X-ray radiation in its frequency and wavelength. So gamma radiation is just high energy light that acts like quasi-matter. Instead of like, if this light bulb were to, instead of emitting visible light, emit gamma radiation, it would be emitting, trillions of particles, just like a nuclear explosion would do, of course. Trillions of quasi-particles of gamma radiation, high energy light that acts like matter. Well, that makes it simple. We don't even need to use the word radiation anymore, because alpha radiation is just helium nuclei, bowel movements from super large atomic structures, that are unstable, naturally so. Very simple. Scalar wave or Tesla death ray, beta radiation. These are radial dielectric emissions. This is why Cherenkov radiation travels faster than light. Light's not a speed, by the way, it's a rate of induction. By the way, if you look this up, Cherenkov radiation travels way faster than the speed of light. I love it when stupid people tell me nothing travels faster than light. It's like, well, even light doesn't travel as fast as light when it passes through glass or water. What do you mean? It's like, you don't understand at all. By the way, light's not even an emission. Nothing travels from point A to point B. Nothing emits light. Nobody emits sound either. When sound is created, we actually set up a perturbation in the air, i.e. the nitrogen and oxygen. Nothing emits sound. We have a speed of sound, though, don't we? Speed of sound implies something is traveling from point A to point B. But nothing is traveling in the case of sound. It's the rate of induction of the medium against itself. In the case of sound, it's the air, i.e. the nitrogen and oxygen. Speed of light is also, too, a rate of induction. This is the reason why Nikola Tesla referred to light as a sound wave in the ether. It's just an ether perturbation modality, just like all fields are. If we wanted to even simplify Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is really simple. She's like a hairy armpit chick with dirty feet and a hemp skirt. Yeah? Hairy armpit chick. We simplify it even further. We could say that there's only two field modalities, the field modality of force and motion, inertia and acceleration. Respectively so, the conjugate geometries of force and motion, inertia and acceleration, i.e. the magnetic and the dielectric, or respectively so, the torus geometry, which is the centrifugal geometry of force and motion, i.e. magnetism, and the inverse geometry of that, which is the hyperboloid, or the hourglass shape. It's the geometry of centripetal convergence, i.e. increasing inertia and acceleration. One is the impedancy of power, and one is increasing power. One is the manifestation of the release of energy, i.e. the torus, and the other one is the increasing inertia and acceleration, centripetal convergence towards counter space. One is a movement towards space, the creation of space, actually, not towards space. Excuse me there. I've been listening to that crap my entire life, too. Sometimes it's hard not to say it, even though I know what I'm thinking about. The creation of space. One is a motion towards the creation of space, i.e. Cartesian increasing value or volume. The other one is a movement towards counter space, i.e. increasing centripetal inertia and acceleration. So we just have this conjugate geometry of the universe. That's all there is. Electricity is a hybrid. Phi times psi equals Q in Planck of electrification, so we know what that is. Gravity doesn't exist. The phenomena of gravity obviously does exist. There's not a single person on this earth that's going to say gravity doesn't exist. Just gravity as an autonomous field entity does not exist. It completely does not exist. There's no distinction between so-called magnetic attraction and so-called gravity. They're just distinctions in attribution. One is point source and the other one is non-point source, mutual mass acceleration, so-called gravity. Specifically, it is a torsion in the ether. Because there's no force involved in this, right? That's not a force. That's increasing inertia and acceleration. That's literally the elimination of space. If there are only two objects in the entire universe, and of course nothing falls, as I spoke about like last week in the case of so-called gravity. Nothing falls, both bodies mutually accelerate towards a null point in counter space. You can see this underneath the supercell, by the way. They do not accelerate towards one another. Well, that sounds like a distinction without a difference. No, it's a distinction with a huge difference. They are not accelerating ever towards each other. They're actually accelerating towards a null pressure point between the two. That is always the case. They are never accelerating towards one another. That is a really, really important point that would be lost on basically anybody. The devil is in the details, and that is as fine a detail as there is. So the grand unified field theory is just literally that simple. The conjugate geometries of force and motion, inertia and acceleration, i.e. respectively dielectricity and magnetism. Everything is capacitance, resistance, magnetic permeability, and dielectric permittivity. The universe is not complicated. Radiation is not complicated either. I explained alpha radiation, what it is. It's just helium nuclei. We don't even need to call it, we don't even use the word radiation. When we say radiation, human beings just use that to say, well, that's dangerous to human tissue. We could just eliminate the word radiation. We actually have helium nuclei emissions. Yeah. We have beta radiation. We don't need to use the word radiation. We need to say scalar wave emissions. And we have high energy light. We don't need to say gamma radiation. Let's just say what it is. It's quasi-matter-like. Let's repeat that again. Quasi-matter-like or quasi-particle light. Basically light acting like a bullet, essentially, which is exactly what gamma acts like. It's just high energy light that acts like a quasi-matter. This is the reason why, too, we're seeing at the galactic jets of black holes across the galaxy, across the universe, excuse me, not just this galaxy. We're seeing these, they call them galactic jets, and they're also called relativistic jets, galactic jets and relativistic jets. They're emitting from the geomagnetic torsion portals of the inner torus of the black holes of the center of these galaxies. They're emitting trillions and trillions of tons, nearly at the quote-unquote speed of light, of hydrogen. Hydrogen just, we could forget about the electron. Let's just say what hydrogen is. It's the most fundamental single particle in the universe. What it is instead of a gamma, countless magnitudes above gamma is a fundamental particle. And this is why I find it so funny and yet so apropos and entirely accurate to refer to the fundamental particle of the entire universe as hard light. We call these ZTP or zero-time particles. They actually don't experience or partake of time. Their energy is so huge, they don't actually have a frequency. When the power becomes so large, several magnitudes above gamma, there's no frequency and there's no wavelength. We have the self-sustaining singularity, which is really what a fundamental particle is, i.e. the proton, as we call it. And for decades, and I mean this in all seriousness, as serious as a damn heart attack, I've been trying to reconcile light and matter, and I didn't have to. And that's perfectly in beautiful line with Mother Nature. I was trying to reconcile two things together that were already together. There is no distinction between light and matter. Matter itself at its fundamental core cannot be anything other than ultra high energy light, like way more magnitudes above gamma radiation. And the most powerful entity in the entire universe, every scientist even agrees, is a black hole. And what are these black holes emitting? We know for a fact that they are emitting trillions and trillions of tons at their geomagnetic precession vortices of hydrogen. Trillions and they are literally spontaneously generating it, because all that fundamental particle is, i.e. a proton, which is what hydrogen is just high energy light, ultra high energy light. So light and matter have been reconciled. All field theories are one. That makes the universe both simplex and fundamentally holographic. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.